All right, thank you very much for your questions. A few of you have fielded a few questions, and I wanted to make sure to address this before the weekend. Again, if you guys have other questions, I probably won't be able to address them as quickly as this. I'll try to over the weekend if you do send me more questions and be able to address them at those times. But obviously over the weekends, family time, and I might not be able to. But let me address these questions for you here. I got a couple questions, one regarding the Enlightenment, and one regarding the French and Indian War. So let's talk about those two things. So before I even get started, I just want to stress something to you that's really, really important. You guys need to know the differences between the South and the commercial North. So really focus on understanding the differences about economy, the culture, slavery versus not slavery, stuff like that. Really focus in that. Now, you will see a lot of similarities there, but really try to understand the differences between North and South. There's going to be questions on that for sure. All right. Speaking of that, let's talk, and I'll zoom in here. There we go. With the Enlightenment. Now, the Enlightenment, as it's been defined in your textbook, is a period of science, of looking at things. Now, originally, the Enlightenment kind of started out in Europe, as it says there in your book, started in Europe, and it kind of moved over into North America during the 1700s. But it was a period of using science, mathematical laws, physics, those certain types of things to explain how the world works. Instead of looking at miracles and looking at nature as this mythical thing, Enlightenment was used like there should be scientific things that can explain why the world works. Basically what science does to this very day. Benjamin Franklin was a huge supporter and promoter of this Enlightenment with using experimentation and reasoning to explain the world. Very similar to what you guys do in your science classes now. You use the science to explain how the world works. Why does the sun rise? Why does the grass grow? Why does the wind blow? Very, very ideas that we take for granted now. But back then, those are types of questions that wanted to be asked. And Benjamin Franklin was a big proponent and supporter of this scientific revival, this Enlightenment. Now, this is in direct contrast to the Great Awakening, with Jonathan Edwards being one of the big pushers in North America for this. This is a religious revival. This is a revival of people looking for the church for answers, looking to God for answers, looking for the very, I hate saying mystical things, but things that are a part of the religious world to provide answers, and as it says there in your book, to revive the commitment to the original Puritan version of what it means to be Christian and a follower of God and living in God's light and God's love, the Christian God in this case. This is in direct contrast to the Enlightenment. God provides answers, not science. So this is kind of the go back and forth, and we still see this argument to this day. We'll see this throughout American history. There will be other things that we talk about this when we talk about the idea of creationism and the idea of intelligent design and the theory of evolution. We'll look at those things. They're a little bit later on, but we've always, and we will continue to have this argument between science and religion. And that is the Great Awakening, this revival of religious belief of Puritan beliefs, being the guiding light of people as compared to scientific law, mathematical law, physical law, stuff like that. So that is the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening. The other question that I had, which will take me just a little bit longer to talk about, is the idea of the French and Indian War. So obviously we already know that the French were very much a part of the North American existence. But what happens is this. The English colonists have a tendency to move farther and farther and farther west. Now, as they move west, this direction right here, you can see with my cursor, this direction, they are running into French territory. Now, the French are there predominantly for the fur trade, for trading reasons. They have settlements like Quebec and other places along the St. Lawrence River and those areas. But it's very much based upon trading and not about permanent settlements like we see with the English colonies. We see a lot of permanent English colonies as compared to the French. Now, as the English are moving far and farther west, this direction, okay, out west, that is coming in direct conflict with not only the French, who are there for fur trapping, but also there for trading with the Native Americans. And they come in conflict with the Native Americans. And this sparks a war between them known as the French and Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War. This war rages on for 7 years, and eventually the English are able to win this war, but through that process, it's incredibly expensive for the English to fight this war, incredibly expensive, and they want to prevent future conflicts to occur, and that's where we get the Proclamation Line of 1763, where we want to stop all future English settlement to the west because they don't want conflict. Again, that conflict with the French and the Indians during the French and Indian War was very, very expensive, and they wanted to prevent that future conflict from happening. So the French and Indian War was, with two big impacts there. And you can, again, read about the French and Indian War. George Washington played a role in this, a very small war. Actually, George Washington's most famous battle during the French and Indian War, he actually lost. Luckily, he survived. But the French and Indian War had those two main impacts. One of it was kind of a good impact for the English. It really solidified their power, their strength in North America, but at a cost of a great amount of expenses, money, wealth. And at that point, that's where you get the Proclamation Line of 1763 and a lot of other laws that are put in place to prevent future conflict, and also laws and taxes to help pay for this war, because they felt the English colonists caused this war by moving west, by going into French territory, and the English Parliament felt they needed to pay for this war. We'll talk more about these types of things when we get into Chapter 4 for the War for Independence and the frustrations that the colonists faced. But again, the French and Indian War was just that, a war between the French and the English. 7-Year War is also another name. And it solidified but cost a great deal of money for the English government. One last thing you need to know that is very, very important as we move into the War of Independence is that during this war, a lot of the American colonists picked up a lot of military tactics that they would use in the War of Independence. One of those military tactics being guerrilla warfare. The Native Americans were puzzled by the types of fighting that the Europeans did. They were puzzled, like, why would you stand up and shoot at each other? I'll provide you guys videos and stuff like that. Why would you just stand and shoot at each other like the English did, like the French did? They used guerrilla warfare, ambush tactics to, you shoot at your enemy and you run away. You shoot him, you pester your enemy. You don't allow your enemy to take easy shots at you, as we see in a lot of wars during this time period. And the American colonists, like George Washington, picked up on these very, very effective tactics. And we'll see these tactics again during the War for Independence. So, great questions. Thank you so much for asking them. Again, if you have more, please send them to me. I will kind of compile them, and I will do my best to get the answers out to you as soon as I can. Remember, your quiz is on, not on Section 4, okay? It is on Section 2, 3, and the map. And I will show you the map right here. Come on. Oh, I just passed it. There we go. On this map, you need to know this information, okay? And again, it's open notes, so you'll be able to look at this and take it. But remember, bouncing in and out of your quiz might cause some problems. So again, your quiz is on the map and 2 and 3. And do well on it. And again, don't freak out. If you get a low score on the quiz, don't freak out. The grading system is kind of broken a little bit. So don't freak out if you get a low score. Let me go back and look at it again and regrade it, because I had to do that with my other classes. So don't freak out if you get a bad score and you're like, oh man, I think I only missed one on the map. Let me look at it again, and most kids I do have to regrade them and their grade goes up. So thank you again for your questions, and I will see you and talk to you, and I look forward to answering more of your questions. Take care.